Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by SourceVibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
You have entered into a dimension of truth, where time does not exist and illusions are shattered. The journey of truth is intense. The journey of truth will set you free. Consider this a warning as you enter the dimension of truth uncompromised.
Okay. All right, family. Hopefully you can hear me now. This has been absolutely crazy. Let me start all over again. It's been crazy. Let me bring on Brother Sean. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Wholeness and power, sis. I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. And I didn't even know I wasn't on until I saw you drop off and come back on. I called myself introducing you. I didn't went into a 10-minute, motherfucking 15-minute spiel. Ain't nobody heard nothing. So Let me start over. It's been crazy. I got kicked off. It's just been absolutely crazy. Just the fuckery starts. All right. So here we go again. That's a damn shame. I literally did introduce stuff, went on about the series, all of that shit. So now I got to start all over again. Damn. All right, family. So welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. This is September 19th. We are continuing our series, The Lands of the Giants, Part 18. So this week we are going to get into the giants, the copper giants, and the royalty. So I'm really excited for us to get into that. It's also, as usual, some other extremely interesting stuff that he's going to get into. The point of reference for the Giants in America is a book by Richard J. Dewhurst called The Ancient Giants Who Ruled America, The Missing Skeletons, and the Great Smithsonian Cover-Up. All right, so with that said, Brother Sean, did you have any go ahead on with the fuckery for the family before I go into follow-up items? Sure thing.
Alrighty, it's the constant waiting for something or somebody. Instead of realizing that the person you wait on is you.
Indeed.
Ain't nobody about to save you.
Nope.
I don't care what Trump talking about. I don't care what none of them talking about. I mean, I pay attention to it because
right.
what they're saying and doing is setting off certain frequencies that should make you more self-aware.
Right.
But you becoming too emotionally caught up into the bullshit.
Into the illusionary bullshit.
Exactly. And the greatest power or the greatest hero or savior that you're looking for is you.
Yep.
You waiting on certain dates. We all know that the holidays, so-called holidays, actually meant something once upon a time from a frequency standpoint of view. But that was something that we created. We can let all that bullshit go and create something else.
Right.
Right now, today, we can create a whole new energy center.
Yep.
Tomorrow, whenever we fucking decide to amp things up, we can do it. But we wait for days and events that they have lowered the frequency on, that they distract you with everything else. That's what the whole entertainment industry is about. Distracting you and taking your power. Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that just rang so true, what he was saying in that clip. I mean, I 1,000% agree with you, Brother Sean, and that's why I always say sweep around your own doorstep, because if you can't have your own self-centered and balanced, then you can't change anything. It starts with self. Then, outward, the frequency will change and shape your reality. That is what we are supposed to do. But, a lot of folks want to say, well, we need to be doing this, and whoa. Start with you. Start with your household, because I'm going to say, and I'm going to say again, if you can't control your household, you can't control your block, how the hell are you going to control or rule a nation? It's impossible. It's impossible. But everybody's looking outward instead of inward. So when we talk about being an alchemist, we're talking about doing it from within. That's how you shape your reality. You do it from within. But when you look outwardly, waiting on someone, waiting on an event, waiting on Sky Daddy, then you have no control over that. You have given up your control. You have given up your sovereignty, and it'll never happen for you. Because no one or nothing is going to do what's best for you but you. We keep saying it every week over and over and over and over again, and we're going to keep saying it. We're going to keep saying it. So either keep being stuck in your hell or go within and create your reality. You are alchemists. You've just fallen so low that you look outward for everything. You have fell so much in love with this 3D density that everything is outside of yourself for a solution. But everything starts within. It starts with a thought form. And once you start dealing with self and getting back onto that alchemist that you are, you would start changing your own reality and changing realms. And then you will enter and understand that you help create realities. Because at the end of the day, I don't care what nobody say, the people get upset. I don't give a damn if they get upset. You cannot convince me that the last 400 whatever plus years, however the hell you want to calculate it, that the melanated quote people who you are the oldest souls were overtaken by some younger souls. No, it had to be some agreement. It had to be some infighting, and it can be reversed. But if you sit back waiting on someone outside of self, it just won't happen for you. Just won't happen. And that's why we take the time to do these series going into bloodlines, going into these different stories to get to the truth, to show you nothing is what they have portrayed it to be. And that's for a purpose. That's for a purpose. Because if you can keep people asleep, feeling that it's someone else's fault for this, someone else's fault for that, hey, you can keep being a slave. You can keep being fed on, and the conditions never change. So, yes, very, very powerful point, Brother Sean. Thank you for bringing it up, because I don't want us to lose sight of that. all of this can be changed in just the blink of an eye if people just went within and just make the conscious and subconscious decisions that they're just no more with the fuckery. So, very, very good point. Okay, so I do have follow-up. Oh, and it's a damn shame I was kicked off and I had went through all of this, y'all. But I have follow-up on what we talked about a couple of weeks when we were using Clyde Winter's information when he was talking about that R1M173 DNA and how that's tied to the sub-Sahara Africa and how everyone that's calling themselves Caucasian European today, that they have that particular DNA strand. Well, another article came out, and I'm not sure when this came out, may have been 2015. But anyhow, this time he is going on the African origins of Native Americans. Now, interestingly enough, he's going to go into this article talking about how the Y DNA strand was the one that brought over to the Americas the R1M173. And this ties very, very closely to what we've been talking about when we went over the Black Nobility series, and we talked about how your bloodline, if you trace your bloodline, those in the Americas, those melanated folks in the Americas, you will find that your bloodline is going to be split between Europe and America. And more than likely, the Europe side will be tied back to the father lineage or that Y chromosome lineage. Because what we saw is that when they were coming over here, they were marrying into the indigenous people's bloodline. Okay? And that would still jive closely because you had a lot of the North African Berber come over to Europe for trade, and they were fighting and all of that too. So very, very interesting article. I'm going to go into this with the family. Right, so here we go. This is called African Origin of Native American R1M173. Clyde Winters is the author. All right, so abstract. Controversy surrounds the origins of the Y chromosome R lineage among Native Americans in the United States. Most researchers assume that the occurrence of this gene among Native American is the result of a European admixture. This view is not supported by the phylogeography of haplogroup R1, which does not, hold on family, I gotta blow this up a tad, which does not correspond to the former territories of the European colonies with the highest population density. The location of this paternal clade, on the other hand, does not match the former centers of Black Native American occupation and the forced migration of Mongoloid and Black Native Americans into the American Southwest, which suggests that the presence of R1 among the Mongoloid Native American is the result of Mongoloid Black Native American admixture. This Indian African admixture would have been between SSA and the Black Native Americans already living here at the advent of the colonial era mating Mongoloid Native Americans. The African-specific RM117Y DNA form a sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, so African. So that's what SSA means, sub-Saharan African. That's what he's abbreviating. Subclad, which in association with the SSA RM269 subclad in Africa, revealed that there was gene flow from sub-Saharan African toward Mongolo people in North America probably during the past 500 years. All right, so that's the abstract. Here's the introduction. The phylogeographic and origins for haplogroup R1 in the United States has been the subject of intense debate among researchers. Given the presence of R1 among Europeans, researchers have assumed that this haplogroup was introduced into North America by Europeans. This view is not supported by the phylogeographic haplogroup R1, which does not correspond to the former territories of the European colonies with the highest population density. And so that's Arnaz Valina in 2006, and other researchers have suggested that sub-Saharan Africa were among the first Americans, and so he's given a reference that Spanish explorers found sub-Saharan Africans already in the New World when they arrived. Okay, all right, so Rascanis, 1833, and Quatrefages, 1899, mention a number of pre-Columbian black Native American tribes, including the Yamasee. The black Native Americans lived throughout the United States. They were especially prominent in the Midwest, Northeast, and Southeast part of the United States. So he's quoting a couple of sources for that. The presence of the presence of South-Saharan Africa in North America suggests an African origins for the presence of Y-DNA RM173 among Native Americans. This results from the high frequency of haplogroup R1 among African population across the African continent and especially in West Africa. Okay, so let me pause. That is interesting because that's where they're trying to say that most of the melanated people in the Americas came from West Africa on slave ships, instead of being honest and saying, well, no, they have split ancestry, their mother's lineage is indigenous to the land, and so we'll keep going. Anyhow, to evaluate this issue, we will analyze the genomes belonging to the R lineage in Africa and North America. Materials and methods. We analyzed 3 subclasses of the R haplogroup. The Y chromosome sampled were from the sub-Saharan African and Native American R lineage. A database of Y chromosomes, okay, so once again, I'm going to point out, when we were doing that Black Nobility series, we told you all, and that's why it's important for you to research your heritage, because more than likely you're going to see on your mother's side it's indigenous, and then on the father's side will tie back to Europe, okay, and which would tie it back also to sub-Saharan Africa, okay? Now, some melanated people may not have any ties back to Europe, but for those that are researching your lineage, if you see that, don't get scared and think, you mix with Caucasian people, or, you were brought over as slaves by Caucasian people. No, that's not the case. That just means your lineage is split, okay? So keep digging. You're going to still find some of your folks are indigenous here, and then you'll see that European part, okay? Because remember, the Y chromosome, meaning the male chromosome, as they were going across these lands, either conquering or negotiating, they were marrying into the bloodline of the woman. Because in the indigenous population, and especially in the Americans or the Americas, the woman held the land wealth. Okay? So show you how everything is fucked up and discombobulated today. All right, so here we go. A database of Y chromosomes, R genomes from Africa and North America was compiled. An interpopulation comparison was then conducted for the Sub-Saharan African and Native American R sequences following the literature survey. The data mining of the literature was used to determine haplogroup frequencies presented in this paper. Results and discussion. The most predominant Y chromosome of Native Americans in North America is RM173. RM173 is found in the northeastern and southwestern part of the United States, along with mtDNA haplogroup X, and they're saying 25%. Both haplogroups are found in Africa, but are absent in Siberia. There are varying frequencies of Y chromosomes M173 in Africa and Eurasia. So just prove my point when we told you all when your bloodline is split and you have that European connection. So again, there are varying frequencies of Y chromosome M173 in Africa and Eurasia, whereas only between 8 and 10% of M173 is carried by Eurasians. 82% of the carriers of this Y chromosome are found in Africa. In Table 1, we note that R1 class among Native American populations varies. The Native American population that possess the RM173 haplotypes are predominantly found in the northeastern and southeastern part of the United States. It is important to remember that many Southwest Native American population groupings originally lived in the Northeast. Okay, so let me wet my whistle again and just stop to put this back in content for the family. Remember the Northeast. Remember when we talked about trade first happening with Europe in the Northeast, because it was the fur trade that was happening, because it started with the Dutch and all of that, yada, 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 okay? So that makes sense. So here we go. This is very interesting given the presence of RM173 is found among many American Indian groups. RM173 among the North American Algonquin group range from Ojibwe, 79%, Chippewa, 62%, Seminole, 50%, Cherokee, 47%, Dodge Red, 40%, and Papago, 38%. Amerindians carry the X haplogroup. Amerindian and European X are different. Haplogroup X has also been found throughout Africa. Given the source, okay. Shimada believes that XHX is of African origin. Amerindian X is different from European HGX. Skeletons from Brazil dating between 400 to 7,000 BP have the transition NP 16223. Transition NP 6223 is characteristic of African haplogroups. This suggests that Africans may have taken the XHG to the Americas in ancient times. The African origin of this haplogroup is evident among the Seminoles, who continue to show the African phenotype. The pristine form of R1 M173 is found only in Africa. The frequency of Y chromosome R1, then they do have like a negative in front of this, M173 this time, in Africa range between 7 to 95% and averages 39.5%. The RM173 haplotype 117 chromosome is found frequently in Africa, but rare to extremely low frequencies in Eurasia. The Eurasian R haplogroup is characterized, that's characterized by R1b3-M269. The M269 derived allele has a M207/M173 background. This literature provides us with the data to critically examine the distribution of RM173 in North America. It presents a genetic pattern of this haplogroup from Africa to Eurasia and the dispersal of a significant African male contribution to Eurasia. So I'm going to read that again so we are clear. This literature provides us with the data to critically examine the distribution of R1M173 in North America. It presents a genetic pattern of this haplogroup from Africa to Eurasia and the dispersal of a significant African male contribution to Eurasia. So once again, that's just telling you that the African genetics was spread through the male lineage. Okay, so from Africa to Europe to the Americas. All right, Y chromosome V88 R1B1A has its highest frequency among Chadic speakers, while the carriers of V88 among Niger-Congo speakers, predominantly the Bantu people, range between 2 to 66%. Haplogroup V88 includes the mutation M18, V35, and V7. Reveal that, this particular source, of course, Sania, revealed that RV88 is also carried by Eurasians, including the distinctive mutation M18, V35, and V7. Now, once again, I find it interesting that they are saying that haplogroup V88 contains mutations. All right? Okay, so here we go. And the mutation is carried by Eurasians. All right? So R1B1 P25 is found in Western Eurasia. Haplogroup So it would be interesting. What's considered Western Asia? Sis, I see you on. I'm gonna come to you. If you could do me a favor and kind of check what is known as Western Asia today, that would be excellent. Okay, so here we go. Haplogroup R1b1 is found in Africa at various frequencies. In Table 3, we present the frequency of RM269 in Sub-Saharan Africa. And so Brunel Lee in 2009 found in their study that 5.2% of Sub-Saharan Africa carried RB1. The frequency of R1B1 among the Bantu range from 2 to 20. The bearers of R1B1 among the Pygmy population range from 1 to 25%. The frequency of R1B1 among Guinea Bissau population was 12%. Y chromosome R1M173 was probably spread in Western Europe first. Now, I can't make this up. Let me take a sip so I'm clear with this shit.
Mm-hmm.
So this shows you how our research, we don't be fucking around with our research. Whoo, child. Y chromosome R1M173 was probably spread in Western Europe first by African Roman soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
and later by African Muslims
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when they conquered Western Europe as Moors.
Oop, 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 oop.
I'm going to read this motherfucking shit again. For
Say it
all
again.
you that's been putting people down, talking out the side of your motherfucking neck, when they've been bringing you research after research after research, the genetics is telling the story. Now, I'm going to go over this shit again. Y chromosome R1M173 was probably spread in Western Europe first by African Roman soldiers and later by African Muslims when they conquered Western Europe as Moors. All right. Okay, so you folks that's running around confused, you better research your lineage, because we told you more than likely on the father's side that's going to tie back to Europe, the mother's side would be indigenous to the Americas. All right. So this would explain why 60 to 70% French and Spanish males carry this Y haplogroup. Around 0.1 of sub-Saharan Africans carry R1B1B2. So that's a source from somebody named Wood. In 2005, found that Khoisan 2.2% and Niger Congo 0.4% speakers carry the RM269Y chromosome. Okay, and if I remember correctly, that M269, I think that's what the folks that are calling themselves European Caucasians tie back to. All right, so the Niger-Congo speakers form a significant population in the nomes of Upper Egypt, where the founders of the 18th dynasty originated. All right, so Hen in 2011 presents conclusive evidence that African hunter-gatherers population share a number of ancestral lineage, including B264. Although they are geographically distinct populations situated among agro-pastoral groups. An interesting finding of Hen in 2011 was the discovery of the Eurasian-clad R1B1B1A1A among the Komani Sand of South Africa. All right, research article, and this is from the Hen person again in 2011, was surprised by this revelation of RM269 among this Kasan people, population rather. As a result, he interviewed the carriers of R1B1B2A1A and learned that no member of their family had relations with Europeans. The presence of the R lineage among, what did he say HG stand for again? Damn it. He said it up here. My bad, y'all. Maybe he'll say it again. Among the HG population is not new. Wood reported the Caucasian carrier of RM269. So Lee, in his 2009 study, in their study of the Baka and Bakalot pygmy, found the R1B1 haplogroup. These researchers made it clear that the Baka sample cluster closely to the Khoisan samples. The most common R haplogroup in Africa is V88. Given the interaction between hunter-gatherer, that's what HG means, my bad. The most common R haplogroup in Africa is V88. Given the interaction between the hunter-gatherer groups and agro-pastoral groups they live in close proximity to, we would assume that African hunter-gatherers would carry the V88 lineage. Yet, as pointed out above, the hunter-gatherer population carry the RM269 instead of the V88. The implications of the RM269 among the hunter-gatherer population and hens, that's the source of shared African hunter-gathering genome, suggests that RM269 may represent a hunter-gatherer genome, thus an ancient African R lineage. The presence of RM269 among hunter-gatherer human groupings failed to support a back migration of RM269 from Europe. In a recent article on R1-clad, Gonzalez is the source, argued that R1 probably spread across Europe from Iberia to the east, given the distribution of the R1 in Africa. So far, we done seen where the African lineage ties to folks that think they're Caucasian European. We're seeing how the lineage got into Europe. They talk about the lineage getting into Iberia. They talked about the lineage getting into the Americas among the indigenous Americans, now called African Americans. Okay, so does it
also
now
the
make
Native
sense?
Americans?
Also the Native Americans, my bad, who they're calling the Native Americans. So now does it make sense why they are saying the out of Africa theory? But it's different than what they're fucking telling you. It was the conquering of either conquering different kingdoms or the negotiating and marrying into the different bloodlines, okay, of these different indigenous folks, all right? And I done told y'all what you see today around the world is a Roman Empire. That's why the structures all look the same. It is and was a Roman Empire. It was and is, although it's hidden today, a melanated Roman Empire that was doing the conquering. with the origins in Africa. All right. Okay, so Gonzalez in 2012 article further confirms the African origins for Y chromosome R1. The researchers found that 10 out of 19 subjects in the study carried R1B1 P25 or M269 as opposed to V88 in Equatoria Guinea. This is highly significant because it indicates that 53% of the R1 carriers were M269. This finding is further proof of the widespread nature of this so-called Eurasian genes in Africa among populations that have not made it with Europeans. Myers, this is in their 2010 research, argues that the Neolithic European gene pool was probably influenced most by events in Western Europe rather than intrusive pioneer farmers from the Near East. They argue that R1b M412 lineage, phylogeographic and temporal patterns support a Central European origin for this clade and not a recent genetic heritage from Africa, not Anatolia or Southern Europe. Myers, 2010 research, notes the maritime spread, okay? So notice they're using maritime. So coming by motherfucking water, bringing that Roman Empire. But anyhow, notice the maritime spread of the Neolithic farming communities using impressed cardio pottery to coastal Mediterranean population and Crete. They interpret the phylographic as an indication of the probable spread of M269 from Anatolia. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, so just bear with me. This is contrary to the archaeological data which recognize the migration of populations around this time from Africa, not Anatolia. Using ancient DNA, Hock and 2010 research makes it clear that during the lineal Vanderbilk Neolithic culture 5KYA, the predominant Eurasia haplogroup was haplogroup N. Carmilli 2003 research discovery of the presence of haplogroup N among hunter-gatherer Argansian samples suggests continuity between Western European populations from the Holocene to the Neolithic period. So wait a second, I did pull something up on the Holocene because I didn't just want to brush past that and we not know what the hell they was talking about. So the Holocene is, what is it saying? The current geographic epoch. It began approximately 11,650 calendar years before present, after the last glacial period, which concluded with the Holocene glacial retreat. The Holocene and the preceding Pliocene together from the Quaternary period. Okay, so now they're basically just talking about when glaciers were melting and all of that. Okay, so the early coalescence estimate of M269 plus L23, and so I guess that makes M412 chromosome between 8.5 to 12 KYA. Suggests an African genesis for M269 rather than Southwest Asia, since we see not only sub-Saharan population entering the area around this time, they also bring with them sub-Saharan fauna. And African groups who carry R1b are not of Middle Eastern origin. Many of the African populations that carry R1M173 are associated with the Kushite people of Nubia. The African Kushites colonized Mesopotamia. Now I'm going to say it again. Let me wet my whistle first. So I want everybody to be crystal goddamn clear. The African Kushites colonized Mesopotamia. As a result, we find many Eurasian ethonyms of Anatolia and Mesopotamia that indicate a Kushite presence, including the Kaska tribe. So Winters in 2010 research, and Kings of Kish/Kush. The archaeogenetic evidence fails to support this conclusion. The genetic, craniometric, and archaeological evidence all support an African rather than Southwest Asian or Central European origin for R1b. The skeleton associated with the civilizations of Mesopotamia are of sub-Saharan Africans. Haplogroups R1b, 1b2 was probably taken to Europe by African Roman soldiers. Africans were the first recorded in Western Europe 1,800 years ago as Roman soldiers defended Hadrian's Wall. All right, so I'm just going to stop because I'm like, what the hell is Hadrian's Wall? I need to find what that was about. What is Hadrian's Wall and why was it built? Hadrian's Wall was built by the Romans to keep out the unconquered people of Scotland. Construction started around AD 122 after a visit to Britain by Emperor Hadrian, which his reign was AD 117 to 138. A ruler determined to consolidate the Roman Empire borders. Okay, so I keep telling y'all, this is what you see now and what it was before. It is a Roman Empire. All right, so there was a skeleton African Roman soldiers recently found in Britain. Other Africans were found in Britain, including the rich African woman called the Bangled Lady. All right, so I pulled up what's up with this Bangled Lady situation. So Ivory Bangled Lady. The Ivory Bangled Lady is a skeleton found in Sycamore Terrace, York, in 1901. She was of high status adult female of African descent who died in York in the 4th century AD. Her skeleton was found with bracelets, pendants, earrings, beads, as well as a glass jug and mirror. All right, so let us get back. All right, so these sub-Saharan African skeletons show how heavily integrated Africans were in Western Europe. I'm going to read that again. These sub-Saharan African skeletons show how heavily integrated Africans were in Western Europe. Now, isn't it interesting if you are following what's going on in Europe with integration and how there are a flood of Africans coming over to Europe and they are deporting them? So meaning France, London not so bad in London's defense, but definitely France and a lot of other places are deporting them. So I just find this fascinating how this shit just keeps recycling. All right, this would explain the widespread nature of Y chromosome R1M173 in Europe. In addition to R1M173 in Western Europe, the African Y chromosome haplogroup A1 was also recently found in Britain. The question is, where, how, and when did African people carrying haplogroup R1M173 take this haplogroup to the United States? The Black Native Americans who spread haplogroup R in North America may go back to the expedition of Mansa, King Abukari across the Atlantic Ocean in AD 1310. The expeditionary force of Mansa Abukari must have been immense because the average boat on the Niger carried 80 men. So that's out of Winter's research. Mansa Musa, the king who followed Abubakari, reports that he, Abubakari, equipped 2,000 vessels, 1,000 for himself and 1,000 for water and supplies. He conferred power on me, Mansa Musa, and left with his companions on the ocean. This means that anywhere between 25,000 to 80,000 men may have sailed from Mali along with Mansa Abubakari to the Americas. So this is Winter's research. Europeans learned about America from their travels along the west coast of Africa. So let me take a sip of my water. Europeans, I'm going to read that again, learned about America from their travels along the west coast of Africa. Okay, so we done told y'all, those of you with the notion that the white European Caucasian came over here and discovered and came and took people from Africa to over here and invaded. It's just not possible. It's not possible because the vast majority of the kingdoms were ruled by melanated folk. All right, so Vasco da Gama is said to have found out information concerning the West Indies from Ahmad B. Majid of West Africa. The probable settlement of the Malians along the northeastern shore of the United States and the mounds inhabited by the Black Native Americans like the Choctaw explain the presence of the sub-Saharan genome RM173 in North America. Much of what is now Georgia was a stronghold of the Black Native Americans. These blacks lived predominantly from the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina, southwest as far as St. Augustine, Florida. The vast majority of Native Black Americans lived in California or along the eastern seaboard in North America. They belonged to many confederations, including the Muskegon and Algonquin. Some of their tribal names, including Choctaw, Tuscarora, Sikalong, Tamaqua, Nakikok, and Kachati, and Yamasee, to name a few. The Black Native American tribes mainly belong to the Muskegon and the Algonquin Confederacy. Due to the intimate relationships between the Black Native American tribes and Mongoloid tribes, the Black Native Americans, giving the high frequency of the haplogroup R1 in Africa, probably introduced this haplogroup to Native Americans, not Europeans. This view is supported by the high frequency of RM173 among Africans and Native Americans in North America. All right? So he's telling you once again how the mixing of the blood happened. Okay? So you have the indigenous Native Americans, was introduced with the African bloodline through the Y chromosome, and then the black Native Americans started mixing with the Mongoloid, okay, and so that's how that happened. So it didn't have shit to do with, quote, quote, what we're calling Caucasians, and then to top that off, Native Americans who are calling themselves Native Americans, you could go on up the street with that black folks, we are mixed with you. No, boo, it's the other way around. We kept trying to tell y'all that, but whatever. Here we go. And that's not even all of you, because most of you are just straight up Iberians. On the real. Okay, the lighter you are and the more, you look Mongoloid, better check your bloodline. But here we go. One of the largest black Native American tribes were the Yamasee. We know much about this tribe because of the many wars they fought against the British and Americans. The Yamasee was a tribe of black Native Americans who originally lived in Florida and southern Georgia until they were forced to migrate into South Carolina by the Spanish in the 16th century. The Yamasee were part of the Muskegon Confederacy. This was a confederacy of Mongoloid and black Native Americans. Okay, so I'm going to read that again. The Yamasee were a part of the Muskegon Confederacy. This was a confederacy of Mongoloid and black Native Americans. The black Native Americans lived on valuable farmlands during the colonial period. The English and Americans wanted this land. This led to violent conflicts between the black Native Americans and white Americans. In New England, the black Native Americans were eliminated by slaving, warfare, and forced removal. The French enslaved Native Americans around the Great Lakes, Minnesota, Missouri country, and Louisiana. So that's from Gallay's 2002 research. The Europeans also needed labor to work the fields. The Americans provided the Native Americans with guns and cheap goods to purchase Native American/Indian slaves. Between 1670 and 720, many black Native Americans were enslaved. Bassey and Galley, 2009, Ekberg, 2007, Galley, 2002, and a couple other folks who reference. He got those references from. Okay, the black Native Americans were sold into slavery throughout the 13 colonies, Canada, and the British West Indies. The majority of black Native Americans sold into slavery by white and Indian slave traders were the Choctaw and Yamasee and other Carolina tribes. A good example of the enslavement and forced removal of black Native Americans is the case of the Yamasee. The Yamasee was a tribe of black Native Americans who originally lived in Florida and southern Georgia until they were forced to migrate north into South Carolina by the Spanish in the 16th century. The Yamasee were part of the Muskegon Confederacy. This was a confederacy of Mongoloid and black Native Americans. The whites began to steal the Yamasee's land. By 1715, the Yamasees, leading a confederation of other tribes, attacked the whites to drive them off their land. The Cherokee, who were part of the Muskegon Confederacy, broke away and formed an alliance with the British in 1718 and helped defeat the Yamasee. The Yamasee, who were not killed off, were sold into slavery. Most of the Yamasee fled back into their ancestral homeland in Florida, which by this time was settled by the Creeks. The Yamasees were virtually wiped out due to protracted combat with the Creeks, who felt they were trying to take back the land they formerly owned in Florida. Some Yamasee joined the Seminole tribe. In return, the Cherokee took control of Yamasee land. If not for the breakaway of the Cherokee, the whites would have been defeated. By the 18th century, black Native Americans were divided into slave Native Americans and free Indians. Black Native Americans, like the Choctaw, had their own towns or lived on reservations. Other black Native Americans joined the ranks of Mongoloid Indian tribes. Due to Indian slavery in North America, the black Native American population was absorbed by larger sub-Saharan African slave population. Over time, people forgot there had been black Native Americans and Mongoloid Native Americans. In fact, the black Native American heritage and land rights were stolen by the government, as all blacks in America, no matter their ancestry, were assigned the status of former African slaves. G.O. Whitaker, 2015, wrote that as the Indian slave trade gave way to the African slave trade by the late 1700s, by then over 300 years old, and I even question that, but okay, whatever. Native American women began to intermarry with imported Africans, producing mixed-race offspring whose native identities became obscured through time. Okay, so only correction I make with that, it was not African slaves that were coming over. It was European blacks or melanated people that were being ran up out of Europe that were coming over to the Americas as slaves. And they started marrying into black Native Americans. So that's why today, if you trace your heritage, more than likely it's going to trace back to Europe, okay? So the whole trick of the thing was to put up a roof that it was an African slave trade when it was in fact just bringing folks over from Europe, okay, to the Americas. So bringing over the black or melanated population from Europe over to the Americas, all right? And so when we did the whole series on black nobility, if you go back and listen to that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Good source of reference for that is a book by Lee Cummings called The Negro Question, Part 6, The 13 Black Colonies. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So I disagree with you, Whitaker. You need to do a little bit more research on that. All right. But the part about the Native American women began to intermarry with imported, and I'm changing that to Europeans. So black Europeans who by that time had mixed lineage with Africans, producing mixed race offspring whose native identity became obscured through time. In the colonial project to eliminate the landscape of Indians, these mixed race people simply became known as colored people through bureaucracy, erased in public records. In some cases, such as in Virginia, even when people were designated as Indians, on birth or death certificates or other public records, their records were changed to reflect color. Census takers determining a person's race by their looks often recorded mixed race people as simply black, not Indian. The result is that today there is a population of people of Native American heritage and identity, particularly in the Northeast, who are not recognized by society at large, sharing similar circumstances with the freemen of the Cherokee and other civilized tribes. Conclusion. The pea-clad probably originated in Africa because, 1, whites rarely mated with Native Americans before the Great Trek to Oklahoma. 2, RM173 and the subclass V88 and RM269 has its highest frequency across Africa. And 3, RV88 is older than RM269. Researchers found that the TMRCA of V88 was 9,200 to 5,600 KYA. Eurasians carry the M269 mutation. The subclass of R1B1B2 include RH1B1B2G U106, TMRCA 8.3 KYA, and R1B1B2H U152. I guess the time frame for that is 7.4 KYA. The most recent common ancestor for R1B1B2 in Europe is probably 8 KYA. Y chromosome R1B1B2 has high frequencies in England, France, Italy, and Germany. Clearly, RV88 is older than RM269. Some of the Milanian settlers probably introduced RM173 into North Africa. Ancient Mali was a confederation. It was made up of different tribes. Now that's some shit right there, y'all. So they're saying that even the RM173 probably came from Mali. Interesting. Anyway, settling even half the 25 to 80,000 Malians who sailed to America in 1310 on the mainland would have had a tremendous effect on the genetic and population landscapes of the Americas. It appears that black and Mongoloid Native Americans often live side by side. They also belong to the same confederations. Due to the Native American slave trade, many black Native Americans owners in the West Indies over Native Americans were forced to work on plantations or sold into slaves. Using a system of divide and rule, the whites were able to get the Indians captured each other and sell their captors as slaves. Since the ancestors of the black Native Americans had originated in Africa, they began to be identified as slave Indians, freemen, and finally colored. And then as a result of bureaucracy erased, or I'm not sure if he's trying to say ensured, in the public record. I want to say he's saying erased. In the public record, the former black Native Americans simply became identified as color, like the former sub-Saharan slaves, instead of the Native Americans. Okay, excuse me, you all. So again, that was research from a gentleman called Clyde Winters. You can Google him to get to his various articles. This one is called The African Origin of Native Americans, R1M173. Woo! That was a mouthful. So thank you for bearing with me. Let me bring on Sis. And then I see two other callers in the queue. I see you, brother 832. I'm getting to you, but let me bring on Sis Sandra first. Peace and love, Sis. How are you?
Peace and love to you, sis. I'm good. And you, Brother Sean, and the family, everybody?
Hey, sis, how are you?
Doing good. Running late.
That's okay. No worries, no worries. We had a bunch of technical difficulties, so not a problem at all. Good to hear your voice. Good to hear your voice.
Here he is, too.
Okay. You have anything you want to put on that before we go to the callers?
Well, I'm trying to catch up, but you did ask me about Western Asia. What is today? That would be the Middle East. It would be Egypt, North Africa, Eastern European, Turkey, and all those kind of places over there. It's almost like the Sinai in that area there, minus that Sinai Peninsula, they say it. Well,
Okay.
you know what? Yeah, that's where that is today.
Okay. Thanks much for giving that. Okay, Brother Sean, did you have anything to put on it before I bring on the callers?
Oh, I gotta have more countries here. You want to hear?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis.
Is Oman, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Jordan, and Cyprus, Palestine. All of those places in there.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And shout out to Purple Pill in the chat room. And so Purple Pill did say London is bad. All my London friends have complained. So my bad. So London is off the chain as well. And native is first and foremost a French term. Naif. Thank you for that. So that's the derivative. Got you. So native is naif. So just take out the T. Got you. Okay. All right, Brother Sean, did you have anything you want to put on it before we bring on Brother 832 and the other caller?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So let's bring on Brother 832. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Rhonda, Sandra, my sisters from other misters. Feathers up.
Feathers up, bro.
Imposter and foreign invaders down. Sean, my brother from another mother, sitting on Mount Olympus, throwing them black lightning bolts down tonight.
Indeed.
You know, it's very interesting on the course of your conversation. Let me put one log on it and then expound, in our discussion going forward. Chief Elwyn Gillum, the chiefess warhorse. And I'm not necessarily making a correction because I heard you mention it in passing, but I wanted to do a clarification. Choctaw, Chahta, not Choctaw.
Choctaw.
The European theft. Once they were transported to Oklahoma, well, they weren't transported. They were $5 bitches like Elizabeth Warren that ran out to Oklahoma and lied and got themselves placed on the Dawes roll. See, this is the kind of thing, and I know you already know that, Rhonda, but this is the kind of thing that has to move forward with correcting the narrative, but we don't have the information to be in an empowered position to speak competently. And since we don't claim what our actual ancestry is, then we can never have an intelligent discourse. But I won't digress on that. So the Choctaw, according to the I think he was the grandfather or the great-grandfather of Chiefess Warhorse, said that the Choctaw went from the tip of Canada to Bolivia. Now, I don't know if you saw that recently because I was re-watching it today, which is very ironic, Rhonda, and listening to your report and the article that you were sharing. She also had a meeting that she was invited to where they brought some people, a representative from Bolivia and I believe it was Papua New Guinea. And they looked almost like spitting images of each other. And they went to discuss about the similarities of their indigenous or aboriginal circumstances in each of these. I mean, how far distance can you go from Louisiana, as she said, when one night her ancestors went to bed, they were in western Florida. The next morning they woke up in the United States of Louisiana. And down to Bolivia, where he says that there is still today called Choctaw Mountain, and then showed her a massive, what we have been told and what we've repeated in our ignorance, as the Olmec was a gigantic head made entirely out of bricks. Now, do you remember that, or did you ever listen to that YouTube video with Chief Warhorse?
I've pretty much listened to all of them that she has out there, so yes.
Well, she made reference to stating that it's possible that Choctaw, as a tribal affiliation, let's put it this way, as a tribal affiliation, predates who we call the Olmecs, or in the Mexican culture says Olmecas. Now, she also pointed out that the cultural thing that they do is kind of like what you call the Dawn of the Dead, or De los Muertos,
I did see
which is the cultural thing that is done in Mexico and by Mexican populations throughout Central America. Now, when we talk about the bricklayers and the mound builders, which are both categorically tied to the Choctaw, which has been dated for tens of thousands of years. Okay, so I lay that out there for a second, then I want to try to get back to understanding not what you intended, but what was the intent of this so-called, and I'm using air quotes here, scientific article. And could you please clarify to me what is the intent of haplogroups? That is what you were starting earlier in the reporting of this article, right? So what is your understanding of a haplogroup?
Well, my understanding is just different groups of genome or DNA. So that's my understanding of it.
Which they're professing to have some kind of expertise in when they don't even really have any actual knowledge of what they're saying. And I know you remember some clips that showed about Skip Gates joking about them making it up and all this.
Yeah.
Especially when they talk about this African ancestry thing. And what people don't know is that Ancestry.com is a corporate entity created by the Mormon Church. Okay.
Now, I didn't know that it was by the Mormon Church, but it makes sense.
Not only did they create that business,
records
all over the world. They have extensive vaults in the basements of whatever property they have in Utah, where they are compiling this paper trail. Now, I know I'm wandering in here a bit, but I'm just trying to find what is this agenda? What is this agenda? Now, I'll throw another thought for, another log on the fire for your consideration. All of what I heard, now I have to go back and review it and listen to it again or reread it for my own sake. But essentially, with everything that I was hearing that you were reporting in that article, it's talking about nomads, wanderers, population diverse or exclusive. Or I don't know which is that you're going to be able to argue when you want to claim 10,000, 50,000, predate 100,000 years ago. This is the stuff that they're professing in their so-called scientific knowledge, right? But how are you going to draw how these patterns of populations migrated? And here, follow this for just a second. It is only from Africa through what we call Europe / Eurasia / Asia / Mongolia / Siberia, and then eventually, if you want to believe the mythology, we've been told about the Bering Straits, right? The so-called Mongoloid Native Americans walked on ships to the North American continent, where I'm only repeating what I heard. Okay?
Right.
What I've been told. Okay, now explain to me about why we don't have migratory patterns of the people of North, Central, and South America. They pretty much stayed either where they were, or in the case of the Choctaw, as what Chief Elwyn Gillum is saying, from her own personal research and from the oral history of her ancestors and her immediate great and grandfather, went from Canada to Bolivia to almost the farthest southern tip of South America. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about a homogeneous people that was in North, Central, South America? Are we talking about certain subgroups of that same homogeneous people? For example, you did make this statement, or it was part of the article that you read. The Yamasee was a major portion of the Seminole Nation. Okay? But what he did not share, and this is something that I know that, I think, Sandra, you've talked about this before. Did you say you have some possible Seminole ancestry in your family?
No, I have Apache.
Okay. Oh, so that's like out in Arizona and New Mexico?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Texas.
What happened with the Yamasee and why the fierce warrior status of the Seminole is undisputed, Rhonda. The Seminole War is referred to as the first, second, and third Negro War that lasted over 50 years.
Right.
That even the bigot number one, because now bigot number two has put his portrait over him in the Oval Office, Andrew Jackson got his bones as the Indian killer president in the 1820s before pushing the Indian removal in the 1830s. So who was the scar on his consciousness? It was the Seminole / Yamasee, who became the base of all the other disparate populations of Aboriginal autochthonous Americans that coalesced and created the Seminole Nation that was the so-called native population. Then you have the black Seminole portion that supposedly were the African slaves and runaways, right?
In Florida,
so,
yeah.
But that part is still not truly studied. There's a guy, I think his name is Dr. Anthony Dixon. You may want to look in his book about the Seminole, what was called Florida's Negro War, Rhonda.
What's the name of the book, brother? Again, if you don't mind.
Florida's Negro War.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because it was actually called that by people like Andrew Jackson and other generals that were remembered in a 4-decade war, literal. Now he's saying as a scholar, he's going to characterize it as the largest successful slave rebellion, okay, as a description. But here's the thing. I don't agree with calling it slave rebellion because a war makes it seem like you are two equal parties fighting in conflict over what, though?
Right.
But you're at home.
Right.
And it's your land. And you're being invaded. You're being invaded. That's not a war. That's a violation.
True that.
If you were to bring it before the United Nations into the World Court today, what would that be considered? The sovereignty of one land being violated by an invader.
Right.
But you get the point that I'm raising. I'm saying about changing the narrative. See, first of all, obviously we're still in a growth mode. Now, maybe not us, the individuals on this call, but I'm talking about us as a collective people.
Right.
We still are not. We're not at a consciousness level. We're not at a factual level. We're not in a historical context yet to speak competently and confidently about reclaiming what is already yours. Because, first of all, you don't know that. You see? So we have all this mixture and confusion, which is by Mongoloid, Caucasoid, European, whatever term you want to use, and you're correct in what you are describing as these melanated people. But they're still foreign invaders. You understand what I'm saying? So,
well, you ain't got no disagreement from me on that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just for clarification for whoever's listening to our conversation, is that all of these people, all of this scholarship, all of this scientific so-called facts and records are from everywhere else on the planet about nomadic people who, as you dig further, and you've been doing this regularly, and I thank you, I most definitely pat you on the back for, you are revealing that everywhere they're claiming to have come from, they have fucked up the indigenous populations of those places.
Yep.
So what is it that we're having revealed to us with this I know I'm kind of on a circular argument. This hapless group shit, okay, is really saying what?
To me, more invasions. That's the way I look at it. More invasions and
come with me, sister. Come with me.
But you know, see, I knew as soon as I saw you in the queue, I'm like, I know he's gonna bring it. It's again, as I said, it was invasions spreading their quote empire.
Genetic material, what they're claiming, whether it's the Y chromosome.
Exactly.
And notice how they're trying to be slick with the mitochondrial DNA now. So the Y chromosome, okay, is specific to rape, spermatozoa, and, like I said, nomadic travel patterns, correct?
I agree with you 1,000%.
Oh, okay, so why is the Y chromosome trail traveling? Primarily through war and conquest, correct?
Exactly. You knew I didn't even have to say that because I was reading the article trying not to be biased, but you picked it up exactly. Yep.
Okay, so now back to North, Central, and South America. And we've said this before, but I'm just reiterating it. Why isn't there effective scholarship about the existing populations, patterns of what is what's the queen's name? Khalifa, or Calafia?
Yeah, Calafia.
Of California.
You're referring to California, right? Yep.
That's why I'm. Come on with me, Sandra. That's your front and
right.
backyard.
That's your representation, right?
Okay, so what is that? If Choctaw is from the north all the way to the tip of South America on the east side, who is Khalifa?
Yep.
From British Columbia or whatever part of Canada down to the west side.
Yep. Yep.
And where is the genetic? Why isn't there any haplogroup studying of that?
Well, my thing is, when I was reading it, I appreciated that he did it on the Y because it proves our point of the invasions and the war. But notice how they don't want to get into the motherfucking X side. Because it's going to be a lot of motherfucking hurt feelings once you get into the X side. But I totally 1,000% agree with you, brother. I know exactly where you're going with that.
And one last thing, now here the issue is, it's always about, is it a warring population that is more valuable than a peace-loving population? How is it characterized? In myth, folklore, history, and consciousness. Okay? All of these worldwide religious so-called belief systems all at some point claim to have a moral character or code based on goodness, right?
Right. Claims.
I said claim. Okay. But who are the source of all the wars in the history of all humankind?
It's religion, right? Isn't it these same religion organizations?
Okay, give me something, and this is, again, I know I'm wandering a bit here in this conversation. And Sandra, this is your cue. Give me something in any of the moral codes of other world religions of the level of Dom Diversus and the doctrine of the skeleton. Can you give me one treatise, tract, scripture, good book, bad book, whatever? Could you give me one that's anywhere close to the edict that was reported by the Catholic Church, to the outright brutality of how it has been implemented? And wherever they've traveled the face of the earth, they have claimed to have credibility from this declaration. Could you give me one example from any other beliefs? The Bhagavad Gita, the Buddhists, the Hinduists, the Maoists, the Confucianists? Could you give me one?
Well, in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, it's very clear that their goal was to conquer and to take what we have to make it theirs and bring us their junk. That's in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, and our people get all into Paul, where Paul, the apostle, is the Pope Paul the Fourth. He has the same doctrine to come over here and take. Now, what they did for the Dame de Verses as well is when they shipped or they came over here themselves, the Catholic Church turned around and stole their property too, because they said they were dead. So all the ones who came over here in perpetuity, they lost their lands too. So they just coming over here to kill, steal, and destroy, if that's what you're talking about.
Okay, so Rhonda, in the final wrap-up of a lot of this that I see on the wall, you see what shit. Where is the line of demarcation? You said the African Roman Empire, and I know you repeatedly said the African Roman Empire. Okay, so when does this shit get whitewashed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say in the
1800s. Because I heard you before.
Yeah.
Just prior to World War I in 1914, 1915.
Yep, I said the 1800s when the takeover, or not even the takeover, because the takeover had already happened, but the whitewashing began the 1800s.
Yeah, because they were all called blacks.
Let's say in a sense, and I'm gonna use it one more time in parting. Andrew Jackson, Indian killer, from the 1820s to the 1840s. Okay, now it may not be accurate. All right, I'm just
right.
use that as a lot because you know why? That's 200 years from 1619.
Yep.
So now we're halfway through. Now, in parting, could you, and I don't say this for you to be doing a religious treatise because you got Sandra already. These ignorant Negro Christians out here, there is only one scripture in the entire Bible that specifically identifies of people being in bondage 400 years. It is Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 and 14. Now, I'm not telling people to profess themselves to be one of the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm not telling so-called black Christians to give up this. They don't know they don't have anything. Or to understand who the seed of Abraham is. Because it says very simply in those two verses, know of a surety that thy seed will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them 400 years, and they shall be afflicted. And this is out of the mouth of so-called God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Yah, Allah, Most High, speaking to Abram, the father of all nations, who did not even have a child at that time. And he said, afterwards, that nation will I judge. Now, you can speculate and put your spin on it, but I yield.
All right now, brother. All right. Thank you so much, Brother 832. Peace and love. Peace and love. Great drop. Great drop. Okay, let me bring on 646. And thank you, brother, because you knew exactly, you cut through straight line on that article. I didn't want to be biased reading it. I stopped, gave some reference points, but you cut right through it and hit it straight on the head on what was going on. All right, so let me go to 646. 646, your line is open.
Islam, peace and love, sister Rhonda.
Peace and love, brother.
Peace and
Peace and love to the panel. Peace and love to the family. 832, you're really refreshing at all times. I love it.
Yes.
Now, one major thing that keeps happening in all the different circles that I keep trying to figure out, well, why is it like that? But beyond that, I just keep noticing it is like that it seems that we keep forgetting that the directional and historical fortitude of the angles that these writings and things are coming from, especially the later ones, are all still under the same type of let's try to verify what won't shake up the apple cart. Let's, whatever we say. Like, for instance, I ran upon, what's his name? I can't even think of the guy's name who was supposed to be writing the people's history. And I'm expecting one thing, and when I open up the book and start reading, let's go along with the program, but act a little more radical, and it's a terrible thing. And what I find the source or the dynamic is always that we think it's possible to start from where we at and then look back. And that will only take us into the wrong route and a brick wall. We got to go back and bring it forward. So when I say that, I say, how impactful, again, is the statement properly conceptualized that Nat Turner was never a slave? That would sort of lead into be adjacent with what Brother 832 was saying. Then also, like when you was doing, you're doing the black nobility, right? And now I had previously on quite a few calls ago mentioned the Gypsies of Ireland by
you sure did.
Mac Ritchie, because in there you will see something that's before this history on the nobility period that you're reading about, that shows not so much that the black nobility wasn't there, but there was also this other group of folk that when push came to shove, they said, we got to round them up and send them back home. And back home was over here. So they put them on the boats to send them back here to America. And so there we're talking like, then we can sort of picture a little greater, not to say that everything McRitchie wrote was correct, because I'm finding out that even the societal writings and the King's Court fluff things up.
Yep.
So, but it's a beautiful discourse, but I just keep saying, in order for us to really do that full analysis, the full discernment, we need a different ruler. The ruler that we keep using, the measurement stick that we keep using is the borrowed one. It's the pulpit one, the one that wants us to believe certain things that would stop us from seeing the truth. And, but I say, great program. I give you thanks. And you saw how they played with you? Yeah, I was cracking up when you said you thought you was talking.
Literally, a show was. I was like, blah, 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 da, da, da. And I kept opening up Brother Sean's line. Are you there? Da, da, da. And then I so happened to look at my text. 2 people, I can't hear you. I'm like, I be it's all good.
Keep up the great work.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Love you
Thank
much.
you, brother. Good. Love you much. Good to hear your voice. Peace and love. All right, family. So next week I'll share some information. We're not going to have time tonight because I want to get into some of the giants in the Americas because he's getting into the Copper Crown kings and queens. But Sis Cheryl, as usual, shout out to her, sent me some information on the Arctic on that Mercator map because last week I kind of was mentioning the importance of that Arctic and how it looked before it iced over, et cetera, and how some of the tribes in Africa, well, what is known as Africa today, say that their folks came from some of that region. So I have information to share with you about the ancient Arctic.
Before you get into that, I just want to say that it makes it perfectly clear why the Moors don't want to bang on nothing, why they don't want to disturb nothing. Because they got children all over the fucking planet.
All over the planet. I mean, literally.
That's why they don't want to kill nothing. They don't want to kill none of their children.
Literally. Literally. And why the mixing... I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
And they talk about Genghis Khan having kids all over the planet. I guess the ones that ain't Genghis Khans is the Moors.
Right. And now doesn't it make a lot more sense why they keep saying, oh no, this is America. Now all of that doctrine makes sense. It's all distorted, but it kind of makes sense of the origin. Because again, we're talking about conquering of empires and mixing in with the bloodline. That don't make you indigenous.
Exactly.
But, okay, well, I'm rum, whatever. Whatever. So next week we'll go into I'll go into the Arctic stuff that Sis Cheryl sent us, and shout out to Sis Cheryl and thank you again. All right, family. So we're getting into the ancient giants who ruled America. This is the book by Richard J. Dewhurst. Again, I highly recommend it. He did an excellent job. So now we're in section 4, Copper Crown Kings and Queens. So this is on 106. And those of you from Georgia, so Georgia, that just all of the Americas, it's just all so deep and just so much, it's so much tied to everything. And if your folks are from those areas, you're indigenous to those areas, or even if you just lived in those areas, this stuff, it really, really just blows you all the way back. So, Georgia, you're going to show up tonight in this. All right, it goes, it is natural for humans to begin to link size and power with elevated status in the legends of giants that have arisen in various parts of the world. Giants are often depicted as gods and kings. So it is not surprising that the remains of giants found in America are accompanied by signs of royalty such as copper crowns and other regalia, like pearl robes and mica ornaments, as well as being found in ritualistic burial patterns and settings. All right, so now before I go on, y'all, I was just kind of blown back by the pearl robe. Can you imagine having a robe made out of pearl? Now, if that ain't bling, bling, and balling, shit. And then I guess what also surprised me, I'm like, so when I thought of pearls, I always thought of that being a Europe thing. So as we get deeper into this, you're going to see that was really an American thing. So here we go. The kings are often found buried standing up, surrounded by 4 megalithic slabs of stone. Sometimes kings and queens are buried in stone sarcophagi, and mummification dating to 8,000 BCE has also been scientifically confirmed. Okay, so again, they want to associate mummies with Egypt, but again, mummies have been found over here. And, when rocks cry out, Horace Butler told you that because he told you that it was mummies found in South America, and they were found with the coca leaf, cocaine. Well, they make the coca leaf by the cocaine. It don't start out as cocaine, okay? So anyhow, we know that particular coca leaf is grown over here in Americas, all right? So now that's what Horace Butler research gave you. So now here, this gentleman is saying that mummification, they found 8,000 BCE, and it has been scientifically confirmed. But yet and still, what mainstream push is African Egyptian mummification. All right, so the Smithsonian leads Georgia giant search. The Smithsonian is front and center in this account from 1884 of the discovery of a royal burial. Giant crowned royalty is found. So this is an article from Athens, Georgia, Banner, May 6, 1884. Athens, Georgia, Mr. J.B. Toomer yesterday received a letter from Mr. Hazelton, who is on a visit to Cartersville. All right, so I just want to give y'all some reference to where Cartersville is. And I talked about Cartersville before because someone, if you go to Cartersville, it's north of Georgia, and it's very close to Tennessee. So you have, and I can't make this shit up. If you don't believe me, go on the map and look. Cartersville is also neighboring to a town called Rome, Georgia. I'm not making this shit up. Go look it up. I know what I'm talking about. I know this area. Okay, but anyway, Cartersville is north of Atlanta, close to Tennessee, and it's in Bartow County, but it also backs up against a county called Cherokee. Okay, so Cherokee County has a lot of Indian sites named after the indigenous Indians, and also there are mounds there. And I didn't even know that there were mounds in Cartersville and in Cherokee County. So just giving you all some reference, especially those of you that are in Georgia. I know you know where Cartersville is. All right, so the letter contained several beads made of stone and gave an interesting account of the opening of a large Indian mound near that town by a committee of scientists sent out from the Smithsonian Institution. After removing the dirt from some distance, a layer of large flagstone was found, which had evidently been dressed by hand and showed that the men who quarried this rock understood their business. The stones were removed when in a kind of vault beneath them, the skeleton of a giant who measured 7 feet 2 inches was found. All right. His hair was coarse and jet black and hung to his waist, the brow being ornamented with a copper crown. The skeleton was remarkably well preserved and taken from the vault intact. Near the skeleton was found the bodies of several small children of various sizes. The remains of the latter were covered with beads made of bone of some kind. Upon removing these, the bodies were found to be encased with a network made of straw or reed, and beneath this was covering of an animal of some kind. In fact, the bodies had been prepared somewhat after the manner of mummies, and will doubtless throw new light on the history of the people who raised the mounds. Okay, so again, just going to remind people that the folks that are calling themselves Native Americans today say they are not the people that build the mounds. All right. Upon the stones that covered the vault were carved inscriptions which, if deciphered, will probably lift the veil that has enshrouded the history of the race of giants that undoubtedly at one time inhabited the continent. All the relics were shipped to the Smithsonian. All the relics were carefully packed and sent to the Smithsonian Institution and are said to be the most interesting collection ever found in America. The explorers are now at work on a mound in, now I found this interesting, so the author, I don't know if this is a typo, but you're calling it Barlow County. Today, Cartersville is known as Bartow County. So I don't know if that was a name change from Barlow to Bartow or if it was a typo. But anyhow, the explorers are now at work on a mound in Barlow County, and before their return home, will visit various sections of Georgia where antiquities are found. On the Oconee River in Greene County, just above Powell's Mill, are several mounds, one of them very tall and precipitous. All right. So again, that is the copper crown kings and queens, kings and pearl queens, and that's starting on page 106. So hold on a second here. Yes, Purple Peel. Athens, Georgia. Yes. And Athens, Georgia is where the University of Georgia is located, just to give you all some reference point. Very good point, Purple Peel. Purple Peel goes, Georgia is also south of Ukraine and north of Turkey. Yes, so that name Georgia is also known, it's in different places as well across Europe, across the globe. Okay, so let me go to 313, and then we'll get back into it. I'm trying to get 313. Your line is open. Maybe you didn't mean to get in, 313. All right, 313. I'm muting you. I can't hear you, so I'm not sure if you meant to get in the queue. All right, so let's see where we are. Okay, so now we're going to jump back in Ohio. Royal Mound found. This is coming out of the Oakland Tribune, December 10th, 1925. Surrounded by bushels of pearls, some of them as large as hickory nuts. Skeletons believed to be from a royal family of the prehistoric mound builders have been dug out of the largest of the great Seat group of mounds not far from Chillicothe, Ohio. That ancient mound is 680 feet long, 160 feet wide, and 28 feet high. Archaeologists have undertaken the task of exploring it by excavation. It is estimated that the skeletons may be anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 years old. Two of them wore copper helmets, and one of the skulls was provided with a copper nose. In what is now Ohio, long before Columbus discovered America, pearl fishing was an important industry. The streams of that region were full of pearl-bearing mussels, and Aboriginal chieftains of the Miami and Scioto Valley, the Scioto Valley possessed collections of pearls which might well have been envied by European princes and potentates. So I was really thrown back that the love of pearls, I thought that came from Europe, and it's the opposite. It came from the Europeans dipping and dabbing over here in the Americas. All right, so millions of pearls recovered. In one Ohio mound a few years ago were found enough pearls to fill a gallon measure in size from a millet seed to 2/3 of an inch in diameter. There have been many such finds. One mound yielded 2 bushels of pearls. From another, 500,000 were obtained. Unfortunately, these pearls have no present value. They were buried with the chieftain who owned them or thrown them into altar fires so that they are either decayed or burned. In some instances, they have been found cemented together in masses by water percolating through the soil. An occasional specimen of large size has been salvaged by peeling off the outer coat, a pearl being formed in layers like an onion. Evidence of the great antiquity of the Ohio mounds is afforded by the fact that they contained no buffalo bones. This seems to prove that at the time of their construction, the buffalo had not yet extended its range as far east as Ohio. Okay. So again, it's just really interesting to me that not only that they were finding royalty buried in these mounds across the Americas that were giants, by the way. Again, they were identified as royalty because of the copper crown and the jewelry associated with them. And in this case, what they were finding are pearls. So I just want to once again just remind people that the melanated people were called the copper color people. So just to throw that out there. So I'll pause in case Sis or Brother Sean, you want to put something on it before I continue on.
Yeah. I mean, they keep accurate records of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we just take back the stuff that they admit that they still have, the shit that they dug up and still got, what we need their currency for? What we need their system for? I mean, if people just must physically have money.
Right.
I mean, what's in all these other mounds that they won't let us go near, even though it's our shit?
Right.
They talking about they still going in mounds to this very day, and they ain't asked my permission. They asked your permission?
No.
Sis Sandra, they asked your permission?
Uh-oh, did Sis drop off?
No, I had myself on mute. I got to get it.
Oh, okay. Okay, no worries.
No, brother, I'm thinking that they done talk it all, and they came over here with their dumb verses and the right to claim all the land that they conquered. They didn't ask me nothing.
Right. And my people from Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, New Orleans, they ain't asked a goddamn thing. No.
Well, you were mixed with all black Europeans. What are you talking about?
My bad. And yeah, and I do have that conquering bloodline on the motherfucking white side. I straight up admit that.
So they ain't gonna ask you, Rhonda.
Right.
Well, they didn't ask me either, and I'm Apache. So we fought them. We fought hard. Right.
In Chillicothe, that's where the prison's at.
Yeah, and Chillicothe to this day, and I know people who are indigenous in Chillicothe, melanated people, and that little town is being, it's in sad shape. It's really, really heavily drugged up, with meth and heroin, and I forgot about the prisons, Brother Sean.
Yeah, that's where the penitentiary at. They put all that stuff over ancient burial lands.
Yep, you said that. You said that.
Wasn't Atlanta considered Atlantis?
That's what they say. And that's what they say, but I've also heard that all of the Americas was Atlantis, which makes a lot more sense.
All of North America. Mm-hmm.
Because Ohio was actually a country at one point that encompassed like 5-6
Chicago.
states.
Yeah, I know Chicago was really a part of Ohio back up in the day.
Ohio territory.
Yep. So, yeah, they say that all of Americas, and that would even be including South America and the islands, because remember, there are really more islands in what they're calling Caribbeans today. They're just buried underwater. So there's really more islands, but all of the Americas was Atlantis.
Can you read those articles? When you read those articles, do you ever read the fact that they said they went to Canada? Canada was part of the Americas as well.
It still is.
Yeah, but you know we know that, sis. I know it does make you cringe. That's just like when they, want to say they wouldn't let the people from Bahamas to the America. I'm like, God damn it, they in the Americas.
But they say they came from Africa. Hey, but I'm going to go to a professor who drew a turtle on the map. And do you know that, because this is called Turtle Island, right? He drew a turtle on the map, and it included West Africa. I saw that. I said, "Oh wow." He was not a melanated man, and he drew the map, and he said this is the America the way it was.
Now it's interesting because damn it, and see every time I make mental note that I'm supposed to make note of something that I'm reading or writing down, and I don't do it, then that's when I need to reference the shit, and now I can give y'all a source. But I think I was listening to a YouTube video where someone was saying that, well, we know that what they're depicting on the maps is all it's not correct. It's not correct. Now, this is the second time that I've heard. Actually, this is the third time that I've heard this. That Africa is not even where they say that it is.
Well, you had that map too, and you had that map.
I'm gonna have to.
Was not even as big as they say it was. It was up in that area that I was talking about, is north.
Yeah, that was just North Africa. But I'm talking about that entire continent. So no, I'm talking about that.
It was just a small part of the Egyptian area up there was Africa.
Right, which they called it North Africa. It was only the size of a state. But I'm referring to the entire continent.
Wasn't there?
It's not where they claim that it is. Now, this is the third time I've heard this, that the continent, some say it's like up above the Americas, and that Australia is really closer to the Americas than what they're leading on to. So interesting. Yes, I've seen, thank you, Purple Peel, I've seen antiquity maps in which Africa was upside down.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that it's a video where Sinetta was interviewing this African. And the African was telling Sinetta, no, you're not from Africa, this, that, and the third. And he made a reference real quick. Most people probably didn't pick it up, where he was saying that what folks are calling Africa is not located where you think it was located. So I've heard that 3 separate times.
That's right. And the Nile runs backwards or runs upwards instead of like they say.
Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead on, Brother Sean.
Pretty much ain't nothing where they say it is. Why do you think airplane flights take so long, and they take all these different routes and have all these layovers, this, that, and the other, to make a short-ass flight seem like it's long?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. I heard that too.
Yeah. Yes, I agree, Purple Peel. A vital part is Antarctica. Absolutely. And I love the way you spelled that. Antarctica. Oh, shit. Are you trying to give us a hint? Antarctica. Arctica, Africa. Oh, shit. Okay, you may not have meant it that way, but Yes, I 1,000% agree with you, Purple Peel. Yes, and several adepts do consider Antarctica to be Atlantis. Yes, I heard that too. So next week we're going to get into that article that Sis Cheryl gave us as well. Absolutely.
You know, they are about to launch an expedition up there, down there, wherever, to Antarctica to see why the ice is melting. What are they really at?
They already know why the ice is melting, so they can have several mother MF and C's.
Right.
They already know why it's melting, so they can try to fool the public that.
What they're going up there for. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's why they even going up there to find something. They're trying to come up with an official story on how the landscape is changing instead of telling the truth that Mother Earth is transforming and she's doing a cleanup and the vibratory rate is rising. So they're trying to come up with a full story because everything is changing, just like back up in the day, Antarctica was green and it was an inhabited landmass. So we'll get into that next week. So yeah, they just trying to come up with their story. So you're going to hear them say that, yeah, that the Admiral Byrd was already on a military expedition to Antarctica. Absolutely, back up in the day. So they can miss me with the bull like it's something new. Absolutely, Purple Peel. Yeah, so they're just trying to come up with their narrative. So you're going to hear them talk about the Arctic and global warming and the ice melting, and you're going to hear them keep talking about them finding different planets. I keep seeing articles about colonizing Mars and being able to live on Mars, yada, 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 yada. They're just coming up with their narrative to not even rewrite, to write history. And that is why everything is so jacked up, because folks have relied on the conqueror's official story, his story of what happened, instead of listening to your ancestors, or more importantly, going within and just doing research on your own. All right. Sorry, go ahead, Brother Sean. Yes.
What they're about to do is what Admiral Byrd did. They're about to go up there and get their ass kicked.
Hand it to them once again. Keep on fucking around.
Now, what they up there trying to control, it's probably goddamn giants and all types of other beings and animal species and food sources. They going on a hoarding mission also. They gonna go try and colonize.
Get their feelings hurt. They gonna get their feelings straight up severely hurt.
Well, I heard that Antarctica has some kind of mineral or earth deposits like the beryllium that they have on Black Panther, and that beryllium will disable anything metal. And they want to get that to use for war purposes.
Mm-hmm. They ain't going to be able to get it, though. You got to think about what species may have been laying over there dormant. And that thought is their awakening.
Right. And I find it interesting because remember in Black Panther, didn't Black Panther, they had over there, first of all, they shit was hidden. Let's remember that. They little kingdom was hidden, and you had to be able to break through that their crystal shield. Remember?
Right.
And so, again, they can call themselves going over there if they want to, but they already, Brother Sean, came out with an article saying that they had found, they're finding ancient species and then unidentified species over in Antarctica, not even from them digging, just from the melting that's going on. So, yeah, let them go on and keep fucking on around. That's going to be on them. So, Purple Pill, I see you. You're saying research Nershwa Benland, Neschwabendland. I definitely will, and when I'm doing the article next week on Antarctica, I'll bring that piece into it too. So thank you so much. You said Admiral Byrd got ran out of Antarctica by something or someone. Yeah, because they pretty much shut him up, because the information that he gave to me was watered down, and even that information still isn't into the mainstream media today. Admiral Byrd was twice on Antarctica. He sure was. He went there twice, 2 times that we know of. Absolutely, Purple Pill. I'm sorry, sis, go ahead.
They have a hidden video of him getting whipped, and they had a Foo Fighter. I mean, they had some kind of spacecraft that was shooting across the sky and just tearing them up. And it destroyed. It actually destroyed the ships, and I think some people were killed in that thing, and they kept it quiet. But they do have a video, underground video of some type I saw where they showed him being attacked.
Well, what we do know is that you can go on YouTube and research that yourself. There's plenty of videos of back up in the day when he was on a news program, and he talked about the expedition in Antarctica, and he clearly said that there was additional landmass in Antarctica that have not been discovered yet. Okay, so this ain't nothing that we making up. That's what the man said on TV. You could go on YouTube, and folks have literally pulled that footage and gave you the entire interview. So Purple Pill said, no, they left like a bat out of hell. Foo Fighter is correct. Okay. Yeah, so he confirming for you, sis, that Foo Fighter is correct.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so giant king's mouth stuffed with immense pearls. At another Ohio site, immense pearls were stuffed in the skeleton's mouth, and a bear's tooth necklace was also adorned with pearls, both indication of royalty. As he was buried together with a woman, she as his queen. So it's talking about a World Fair dig leads to giant monarch. So, excuse me, this is out of the Central Ohio Enterprise, and this article was in 1891. Again, this is Chillicothe, Ohio. Warren K. Moorhead, notice that name, y'all, Moorhead, and Dr. Cresson, who have been prosecuting excavations here for the past 2 months in the interest of the World's Fair, have just made one of the richest finds of the century in the way of prehistoric remains. Those gentlemen have confined their excavations to the Hopewell Farm, 7 miles from here, upon which are located some 20-odd Indian mounds. On Saturday, they were at work on a mound 500 feet long and 200 feet wide and 28 feet high. At the depth of 14 feet, Near the center of the mound, they exhumed the massive skeleton of a man encased in copper armor. The head was covered in an oval-shaped copper cap. The jaws had copper molding. The arms were dressed in copper, while copper plates covered the chest and stomach, and on each side of the head, on protruding sticks, were wooden antlers ornamented with copper. The mouth was stuffed with genuine pearls of immense size, but much decayed. Around the neck was a necklace of bare teeth set with pearls. At the side of the male skeleton was also found a female skeleton, the two being supposed to be man and wife. Mr. Moorhead and Mr. Crescent believe they have at last found the king of the mound builders. All right, so one last account. It says this came out of the Oakland Tribune, January 3rd, 1926. Bodies wrapped in precious gems in the United States. Perhaps the greatest interest was aroused by the discovery near Bainbridge, Ohio, of the remains of 4 bodies of the ancient mound builders, a race believed by some scientists to have preceded the Indians. In the graves were found fresh water pearls in such numbers as to convince state archaeologists directing the excavation that the bodies had been wrapped in a covering of precious gems. When the skeletons were lifted, it was found that they had been resting on pearls. Fragments of tortoise shells etched with figures of birds and necklaces made of grizzly bear claws were found. Indians have no oral tradition regarding the mounds. Okay, so this goes back to what I was saying, that the folks that are calling themselves Indians today, the Native Americans, they said they are not the ones that build the mounds. They are not the mound builders. So it says mounds such as the ones uncovered in Ohio are not rarities to scientists. They were known to the earliest settlers, but no Indian tradition has ever accounted for them. Dr. William C. Mills, director of the Ohio State Archaeological and Historical Society, believes that the mound builders once had extensive communities throughout central portion of North America. There is little evidence that they were a warlike people. So in other words, they minded their motherfucking business in peace. On the contrary, they were a settled agricultural, hunting, and fishing race given to intensive culture within the limits of their knowledge. They had more rudimentary knowledge of mathematics, the square, the circle, the octagon, regular polygon, ellipses, exact measured parallelograms, and the parallel lines laid out in a large scale were in common use. The bones excavated show that they were capable people physically. They were fairly broad shoulders, and the average height was slightly under 6 feet. Okay. All right. So then if you want to, you can, let me make sure I didn't go into that. Then they just have one other account on Chillicothe, Ohio, of a find. All right, so I'm going to go to West Virginia. All right, so we're talking the Appalachian Mountains and all of that, child. And hopefully we won't get cut off tonight. We will be allowed to go into overtime. We have 6 minutes. Purple Pill, I know you're the only one in the chat room tonight. So if you want to join us into overtime, you have to dial 929-477-3858, 6 minutes. If not, I truly, once again, enjoyed you chopping it up with us tonight. Let me see what you're saying right quick. You said Antarctica is the most wealthy of all continents due to its vast natural resources and perhaps its unnatural resources as well, if this makes any sense. Yes, Purple Pill, it makes perfect sense. And you said the Appalachian Trail is a 2,180 plus mile long public footpath that traverses the scenic, wooded, pastoral, wild, and culturally resonant land of. Yes, beautiful land, actually. So, Purple Pill, I'm going to get into going into these next sections. So, if you're not going to join us into overtime, thank you so much, as always, for dropping a lot of knowledge. And I'm going to research that one little piece of information, and I'm going to incorporate that into next week when we talk about the Arctic stuff. So thank you so much, and peace and love unto you. All right, so we're going to go into West Virginia. So in the book, that's in pages 112, starting on 112. So Charleston, I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
You know, you're mentioning these areas, West Virginia, Carolinas, and all this kind of stuff. Do you know that Virginia, what was the record keeper, secretary, whatever he was, and the melanated people had made it with the Mongolians over here and moved to Virginia and had started marrying the Caucasian females over there, and he got really angry. I can't remember his name. Is Richard something. We talked about him before.
Fletcher?
Yeah.
Fletcher, yeah. Fletcher's funky ass, yeah.
So all of those areas that you're talking about is where our people migrated to be different from us. So, and they intermarried with a lighter skin until they start getting that white skin. He was mad. That's what he was mad about. And
now, interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you can go ahead. I was just, me, I can keep rolling. You go ahead.
So, and so Purple Pill, one last thing, said, I propose the Appalachian Trail stretch the entire continents of North and South America. Interesting. That's interesting, Purple Pill. From Canada to Chile. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So that's what you was talking about earlier with Trail of Tears.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Purple Pill? I think that's where you were going earlier. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, so sis, about Fletcher's motherfucking funky ass and him getting upset about the white women / what's now known as Caucasian marrying like folks from the East. We'll just say the East. Now think about it. Based on dude's earlier DNA research and him talking about the people up in the East, that would make sense because remember that Y chromosome coming over from the African region. Again, that it's not that they moved to be different. I'm with like Brother Sean, that's the Moors and all they motherfucking children. So in other words, remember the Moors were conquering land and they had concubines and was having children with who we now call Caucasians. So that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
That would make perfect sense. would make absolutely perfect sense. And so Pletcher and them, or Pleckers, I think it's Pleckers. Pleckers funky ass.
Walter
Yeah, Plecker's funky ass. Yeah. His funky ass, you got to remember from their particular standpoint, who we are now calling a Caucasian race, was up under the Moors' thumb because the Moors had them as slaves and was taking the women as concubines and having children with them and all of that. So when the Caucasian race wanted to start to come up into power, and again, I say starting in the 1800s, that's really where the hatred comes into not wanting to mix, because the Caucasian race was under the Moors' thumb for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So that would make a lot of sense to me. And I cannot remember who said this, but someone said, a melanated person said, that a lot of the Caucasians, like subconscious problem that they have with melanated people is really with the melanated Moors, because they had them as slaves. So really, that's what Plecker and them, they like, nah, we don't want to be mixing with our motherfucking enslavers. And so Purple Pill said most so-called Italians are of so-called Moorish stock. Abso-fucking-lutely, Purple Pill.
The Sicilians.
Exactly.
But see, that also brings into play the whole bloodline thing as far as for royalty.
Mm-hmm.
That's why color really doesn't play
it really
a part in it, because the Moors have put their seed everywhere.
Sure have.
In every nationality.
Yep.
Wherever they've been, they left babies.
Yep.
But then that also brings into play all the infighting, because in a patriarchal system, the first son is the one who's really in line to inherit everything. And if something happens to him, the second son. But that doesn't include any of the bastard children fathered in conquest.
Exactly.
So they be naturally having animosity and waiting for their opportunity to try and overtake them.
Yep.
And they legitimate claim to it is their blood.
Yep. And they got them when the Moors started integrating over here and marrying into the indigenous bloodlines over here, and then all of the fighting started happening in the Americas over land and territory, because you had the Roman Empire conquering and vying for who's going to own what, and then the stinking ass Catholic Church and all of that. So the war started in Spain's motherfucking ass. Exactly. Spain's motherfucking ass. France motherfucking ass.
Russia, Belgium.
Russia, exactly. They were all fighting over these territories. All melanated people now. Let's be clear. And then in the midst of that, the Caucasian which were those people's bloodline. So make no mistake about it. The people that they put in power as Caucasians are of their bloodline. Started getting put in those positions, and so when they saw, them fighting each other, they started taking over.
I remember something in the documentation about when the Caesars were overthrown by the Brutus, and when the overthrew the Caesars, that's when you start getting the Catholic Church stuff. But the Caesars were overthrown. Like Caesar was murdered, remember?
Right.
That's when that switch came. And the melanated Brutuses did the other stuff with these other people, with their people they captured and stuff. But that's when I understand that switch came to the Roman Catholics and all that kind of stuff at the death of Caesar himself.
Right, and I definitely would give you that, but I just want to once again to remind the family that was all still Roman fucking Empire.
Yeah. Well,
it
Charles
was all Roman Empire that was going around conquering the indigenous people's land. That's why I say it was Roman Empire then, and it's Roman Empire now.
Well, Charles V was the one that was under Pope John IV. He was the one who was giving them the dictates to go. And so we also have an overthrow of, I guess it was in the 100-Year War between the Yorks and the Lancasters, when Edward was supposed to be king, and then the Henrys took over.
Right, but remember, even that was them fighting within their own bloodline.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's when the Catholics,
because
became
wasn't
prominent.
it? Because we know James and them wasn't Catholic.
No,
and
they
the other line was, and then Louis, because Louis was melanated.
Mm-hmm.
Louis' wife was Catholic, and she was from Spain, and it was a business alignment marriage. So I'm gonna say again, that motherfucking Roman Empire was infighting with each other,
right,
to control territory. But make no mistake about it, it's still the Roman Empire.
Well, that's why
at the end of the day,
the Stuarts got kicked out. Remember, because the fact that they want the Stuarts to get back on the throne, and that wasn't happening because they didn't side with the Romans on that part of the concept.
Right, because they didn't want to be sided with the Catholics and all of that, but they're still part of that Roman bloodline because James said he's a Roman. But it goes back to my point when you said they got kicked out. So when they got kicked out, so the court, so meaning the king's court and all of that, and then all of the rest of them got kicked out over to the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's where the whole slavery story came into play, that these Africans were captured and enslaved and brought over to the Americas. But they were talking about the Europeans
royalty,
or the African Romans.
Right, the royalty.
With that African bloodline /Roman /Moors. So I don't even know how the hell we get on that topic. Shit, y'all.
We got on the topic. Virginia, all those countries.
Oh, yeah. Our bad. I know we got. good. I'm like, how the hell did we get on that topic? Okay, all right. So
but
purple
they
pill
still,
is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
they still tie off into everything because remember they're the self-proclaimed giant killers.
True that. True that. Back into the cities of Bashan. Absolutely. Blood said specifically that they are the giant killers. Absolutely. Didn't he say that his God told them they went over to spy on who was on that land and they came back? God told them to go take that land. And so they went over there to spy, and they came back and said, "There's some motherfucking giants over there."
Joshua.
And their God told them, "I don't give a fuck who over there. I said go take that land."
Well, Joshua wasn't a Hebrew. He wasn't a Hebrew at all. He was an adopted person into the fold. But he was the one that was leading them to do that, Joshua.
Yeah, well, I'm just documenting what they said in their book.
Yeah,
they said their God told them to go take that land, which was the giants' land, because the giants was indigenous to that land.
They were giants themselves. Remember that you read earlier that they were giants
too?
Yeah,
but they weren't as tall as the indigenous giants. But yeah, they were giants. They were giants also.
Giants.
The Titans and the Spartans. The wars between the Titans and the Spartans, right?
Yeah, could be the same story.
Mhm.
Yeah. So again, so it's the same motherfucking people, same empire, and as Brother 832 say, wherever they go, motherfucking drama follows.
Yeah. Well,
drama follows because the land of these indigenous people was peaceful. They was minding their own motherfucking business. They knew how to live in harmony with the land. They knew when they did hunt, they knew how to keep it to a point where it still stayed in balance. But soon as some goddamn Romans / Moors / Africans brought their funk asses on the scene, that was all she wrote. Out of balance, it went.
On and
And that's because they keep destroying their own land. All right, so here, we're going to get to the West Virginia stuff. So Charleston, West Virginia, home to giants, ancient kings, and high priests. In many respects, the West Virginia mounds are key to understanding the giants who once ruled America. Not only are the West Virginia mounds sites in Charleston, now notice that name Charleston, that shows up in quite a few places in the Americas. Okay, so that ties back to Europe and the black nobility. So anyway, sites in Charleston, Wheeling, and Moundsville, some of the most significant in size and number in the United States. But in 1883, the Smithsonian dispatched a team of archaeologists to conduct an extensive dig of the 50 mounds they found there and issue a detailed report. The team, led by Colonel P.W. Norris and Professor Cyrus Thomas, prepared the detailed report of the work, Smithsonian Field Report 1883, which shows quite clearly that they uncovered numerous giants, one of which was decorated heavy copper bracelets. Okay, as I sit here with my copper bracelet on my left arm, just want to note that. But anyway, as we catalog, I'm just saying, as we catalog the unusual burial practices associated with the mound builders, the sun circle burial arrangement is one of the most dramatic. In this case, 10 skeletons were found, all buried with their feet facing inward, surrounding a central skeleton, presumably that of a king or a high-ranking spiritual or military leader. In burial mound number 7, a giant 7 feet tall was found with his head pointing west. Lying in a circle just above the hips were 60 circular pieces of white perforated shells, each about 1 inch in diameter and about 1/8 of an inch thick. His arm was found to be reaching outwards toward an oven-shaped vault containing 2 bushels of corn. In this burial, a covering of, okay, so before I brush over that, so y'all can stop with the motherfucking lie that the corn came from somewhere else other than the Americas. Go on with that fuck shit.
Who said that?
I've seen several occurrences where Native Americans who are really Iberian are saying that, you know, as folks came over from the Bering Strait, they brought corn. Get the fuck on with that. All right, so anyway, in this burial, a covering of flat stones with cup-shaped markings covered the upper layer of burial. The cup-shaped markings on stones have been found in Europe as well as South America. Now, I found that very, very interesting. In this case, further digging revealed a stone slab coffin with a skeleton laid out facing to the east. Okay, so sis, with that inscription also showing up in Europe, it goes back to what, once again, what we were saying about that Y chromosome coming over, mating with folks and shit. So anyway, Mound 23 was found to be of a hardened pyramidal shape, and it's really pyramidal shape. Digging was difficult as the mound seemed to be reinforced with a hard cement-like substance. Digs at other mounds across the U.S. have also uncovered similar cement substances, which researchers have likened to a type of Portland cement. In many of the more elaborate mound burials, actual huts, houses, and temples have been uncovered under the mounds. In this case, what had been once a circular or polygony timber and conical roofed vault was found with a number of burials contained inside. Okay, so once again, I want to point out that when we were reading the cities of Bashan, remember that particular person that was doing their journey over there in the 1700s, I'm sorry, it was the 1800s, because it was in 1865 that he was doing that journey. It's the same thing, because when he went over there, he said that the indigenous Indians, and he didn't call them Indians, he just called them the indigenous people, which were the giants or the titans, their stuff was first. The Greeks and the Roman shit was built on top of the indigenous people stuff. So we see the same pattern over here in the Americas, where you have the indigenous structures, the mounds, and all of that. So anything that you see looking Greek or Roman, that's not of the indigenous folks. That is the Roman Empire. So that's including that Tartarian shit. Okay? It's the same exact pattern. It's the same script that was used across the world to colonize by the Romans. Somebody, I'm getting a lot of feedback, so whatever you're doing, if you can please mute, I would appreciate it. Okay, so one of the most iconic and unusual of the mound builder burial practices involved the burial of adult couples in romantic embrace, sometimes even kissing. Similar burials have been found recently in Europe. Further down in the burial mound, another couple was found sitting in a posture with their legs interlocked to their knees. All right, so that's the West Virginia area. I do want to get to, all right, y'all, get ready. Chow, get ready. And I got to take a swig of water on this one. Get motherfucking ready, y'all. Page 129. King Conehead is discovered. Throughout my research, I ran into reports describing skeletons with deformed, elongated, or flattened skulls. In almost all the cases where there was more than a cursory description, it turns out that what is being described are what we have recently been called cone heads. And he puts in parentheses in a humorous reference to a famous Saturday Night Live sketch and movie, a condition most clearly seen in the famous statue, of Queen Nefertiti. Traditionally, this has been attributed to hydrocephalic deformation or artificial skull boarding techniques. But as the number of these skulls that have been found and studied increases, it is obvious to researchers that certain skulls are naturally oversized and have increased cranial capacities that are not the result of disease or artificial manipulation. All right, go to the next page. So it cites an article out of Charleston Daily News in 1923, evidence of cone head burial. The removal of a wagon load or so of these stones brought to light a stone vault 7 feet long and 4 feet deep, in the bottom of which was found a large and much decayed human skull, but wanting the head, which the most careful investigation failed to discover. A single rough spearhead was the only accompanying object found in this vault. At the depth of 6 feet in earth, similar to that around the base of the mound, was found a second skeleton, almost much decayed, of an adult of a normal size at 9 feet. A third skeleton was discovered in a mass loose dry earth surrounded by the remains of a bark coffin. This was in a much better state of preservation than the other two. The skulls, which were preserved, was a compressed or flat head type. In other words, this skeleton exhibited head characteristics similar to those found in South America and Egypt. As digs progressed in other parts of the state, archaeologists in Wheeling, West Virginia, found another group of giants ranging in height from 6'7" to 7 feet 6 inches, and also displayed unusual skull formations with low foreheads that slope back gradually. So then they go on to say mound builders had peculiar heads, ancient monuments of the Mississippi Valley. Professor E.L. Lively and J.L. Williamson of Friendly have made an examination of the giant skeleton found by children playing near the town. The femurs and vertebrae were found to be in remarkable state of preservation and show the persons to be of enormous stature. The skeletons ranged in height from 6 feet down to 6-7 inches. The skulls found are of peculiar formation. The forehead is low and slopes back gradually, while the back part of the head is very prominent, much more so than the skulls of people living today. The legs are exceedingly long and the bones unusually large. The findings of the skeletons has created a great deal of interest, and the general impression is that the bones are the remains of the people who built the mounds, the largest in the country, being located in Moundsville in Marsh County. All right. So I'll pause there in case Sister Brother Sean, you want to put something on it.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, I'm fine. Nope. About to drink some water. Go ahead.
So amazing to me. If they could tell you whose DNA was found where and what markers they have, but they going to speculate their little behinds off about all that stuff they found that the Smithsonian is also hiding. They know everything there is to know about everything if they have that DNA markers potential. I mean, it's just a play to make you think, oh, this has got some great stuff here, and it ain't the black folks we call niggas, you know.
Right. It can't be them. It can't be them. Exactly. It can't be those niggers. Exactly. Those niggers from Africa. Yeah. Mhm.
So who they have to say it's somebody from Africa who came over here and did this and did that and did this and did that, because that keeps the land out of their hands.
And you know, I'm going to even just add on to that, because it's twofold. It's what you say, what you just said, to continue to forget about the indigenous black melanated to this land who was labeled colored and now African American. So to separate us from the land, but even more important than that, it is to create a history and origin for who they are calling the Caucasian white race today, because their story is not even fucking close to what they are telling. If you think that the melanated story is fucked up and lies, oh, just wait. I got something for y'all when we get into the Caucasian true origins and story. It is nothing on what they are portraying. So it was twofold to give the Caucasians an identity. So the shit is deep. So that's why I keep telling folks that are calling themselves Caucasian, while you are focusing on who's supposedly not from the Americas, you need to really check your shit. You really, really need to check it. Because nothing of what you have been told is accurate. Absolutely nothing. And you should be just as pissed off as melanated folks. But if you want to keep living in Fantasy Island, just like I tell melanated people, that's your choice too. So absolutely, it's twofold. The first fold was to separate the indigenous from the land, but the second piece was to create an identity for folks that are calling themselves European Caucasians today. All right. So we talked about Mississippi Valley. All right, what part do I want to get to? Okay, so we got a few little more minutes. The horned skull. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
There's another part to it. If I'm not really certain all your RIM133, whatever it was. I remember all who has it. But if the Moors hooked up with them, then those skeletal remains will have some of their DNA in it, and they'll say, "Oh, look, it's our land too."
True that.
So that's another thing that popped in my head as you were speaking.
True that. I hear what you're saying, but the Moors and the Caucasians who are calling themselves Europeans, they migrated from the same place. But
they hooked up with the mother of the land.
Right, and they hooked up, right, not only the Americas, but all across the planet. So why do you... No, because the mother's bloodline.
Yep, because the land.
Not the Y. It's not the motherfucking Y. It's the mother's bloodline.
But see, if they found the Y, they'll find the X.
But they don't talk about the X. Why do you think they don't talk about the X?
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh, I get you. Okay, I got it.
You see what I'm saying? That's why they don't talk about the X.
That's right, because that X will really tie it back to us.
Exactly. And that's why they changed it from being a matriarch to a patriarch.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's what's really going on.
Slick stuff.
Yeah, but we own to the motherfucking shit. So no fucks is given about the Y chromosome spreading throughout the land. Yeah, you proved the point that you motherfucking raped and pillaged across the land. But that still don't change that goddamn X chromosome, and it'll never change it. Because the X is the oldest and the heir of the land, not the Y.
Right.
So I don't give a fuck how many seeds they spread. All right. So let's get this page 131, y'all. The horned skull of Sayre, Pennsylvania, and they may be Sayre, Pennsylvania. If I'm not pronouncing it correctly, please forgive me. This is out of Charleston Daily, September 20th, 1916. Sayre is a borough in Bradford County, Pennsylvania, 59 miles northwest of Scranton. The exact year is not clear, but during the 1880s, a large burial mound was discovered in Sayre. It was reported that a group of Americans uncovered several strange human skulls and bones. The skeletons belonged to an anatomically normal men with the exception of a bony projection located about 2 inches above the eyebrow. It appears that the skulls had horns. The bones were characterized as giants, as they were representative of people over 7 feet tall. Scientists estimated that the bodies had been buried around 1200 CE. The archaeological discovery was made by a reputable group of antiquarians, including Dr. G.P. Donahue, the Pennsylvania State dignitary of the Presbyterian Church. A.B. Skinner of the American Investigating Museum and W.K. Moorhead of Phillips Academy, Andover, Massachusetts. Oh, shit. And they even have a picture of it, y'all, on page 132. Okay, so it goes, this was not the first time that gigantic horned skulls were unearthed in North America. During the 19th century, similar skulls were discovered near Wellsville, New York, and in a mining village close to El Paso, Texas. At one time in history, human horns were used as a sign of kingship. Alexander the Great was depicted with horns on some of his coins. In Moses' time, horns were a symbol of authority and power. Apparent pictures of the skulls do exist, but many people consider the discovery to be a hoax. Conversely, many websites suggest that the object is of extraterrestrial origin. So on the next page, he has a picture, evidence of horns. The Vatican Museum possesses Michelangelo's famous statue of Moses. Oh, shit. All right, y'all. Well, he's showing a statue of Moses with some motherfucking horns. Uh-oh, y'all. So, so I'll pause, Brother Sean or Sis, if you had something you wanted to put on it. If not, what's this next section? How many pages? We got a couple.
I thought that was a statue of David, come to think of it. It wasn't. They didn't say it was Moses. They said it was David.
Well, according to this book, this is at the Vatican Museum, and Michelangelo was the one that made it, and it says famous statue of Moses. And this don't look like no David, because he got a beard like the Hebrews.
Well, David was Hebrew too. That's weird. Okay. David had blonde hair. I don't have the book. You said you probably was going to send it to me, but I think you sent it to my home phone number.
Yeah, this book I don't have in PDF form. I bought this.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. All right, so the last little section, and then because next week we get into the section, it's some more deep stuff because we're gonna get into cities and circles and lines. So I'll start a little bit on pyramids and pictorial mounds. It says at the turn of the 20th century, there was a national awareness of the mound builders and their extensive earthworks that far exceeded contemporary consciousness on the subject. Since the majority of the country still live an agrarian lifestyle, awareness of the mounds was reinforced by daily contact with the actual sites themselves. Current estimates put the number of known American mounds at well over 100,000. That's just astonishing. That's just, oh my, that is huge. Well over 100,000, but it isn't even taught in mainstream education. It's just unbelievable how they just rewrite stuff. All right, so it says the range in shape from the Great Pyramids of Illinois to the fantastic pictorial mounds of Wisconsin. It seemed to be common knowledge that giants were found buried in many of these mounds, and that these giants were not related to the present-day American Indians living in the region. So once again, And even in the folks that are calling themselves Native Americans today, they specifically said they are not the mound builders. All right, so the Great Pyramid Mounds of Illinois, one of the largest of the mound builder sites in North America, is located in southwestern Illinois near Collinsville. It is commonly called the Cahokia site. The Cahokia Mound complex has been compared in scope and grandeur to the Great Pyramid. The site is located at the confluence of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois River, directly across the Mississippi River from present-day St. Louis. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense when you hear folks talk about Egypt being over here, right? And I've heard people specifically talk about that Illinois, St. Louis area and how the Mississippi River is really the Nile, all right? Okay, so during the Middle Ages, Cahokia was a larger city than London, with an estimated population of 40 to 50,000, yet today it is an abandoned place about which we know almost nothing. Centuries ago, there were more than 120 mounds at the Cahokia site, though the location of only 106 have been recorded. Many of them have been destroyed or altered because of modern farming and construction, although 68 have been preserved inside the boundaries of the Cahokia Mounds State Historical Site. Lawyer and writer H.M. Brackenridge captured the awe and seeing the Cahokia complex in 1811. He crossed the Mississippi at St. Louis after making his way through the woods along the Cahokia Creek, passed over the plain to the mounds. He referred to them as resembling enormous haystacks scattered through a meadow. Journey of a Voyage Up the Mississippi River in 1811 by Henry Marie Brackenridge. Sound like blood was French with that Marie up in there. But anyway, pursuing my walk along the bank of the Cahokia, I passed 8 other mounds in the distance of 3 miles before I arrived at the largest assemblage. When I reached the foot of the principal mound, I was struck with a degree of astonishment not unlike that which is experienced in contemplating the Egyptian pyramids. What a stupendous pile of earth! To heap up such a mass must have required years and laborers of thousands. It stands immediately on the banks of the Cahokia, and on the side next to it is covered with lofty trees. Were it not for the regularity and design, it manifests the circumstances of it being on alluvial ground and the other mounds scattered around it, we would scarcely believe it to be the work of human hands. The site is named after a tribe of Inuit Indians. Wow. The Cahokia, who lived in the area when the French arrived in the late 1600s. What the actual name of the city may have been in ancient times is unknown. The modern archaeological site is believed to have existed from AD 700 until its decline in 1300. By 1500, it is thought to have been completely abandoned. As is the case with many of the ancient mound builder sites, a true accounting of the ancient history of the mound is almost impossible due to the destruction of over half of the mounds at the site, coupled with the lack of modern excavation work that could dig down to the earlier constructions at Cohica, which may be thousands of years earlier than the dates currently assigned by the conventional archaeology. Monk's Mound, the largest earthwork in the Cohica complex, is a steeped pyramid which covers about 16 acres. Shit, that's large. It is often called Monk's Mound after Trappist monks who farmed the terrace in the early 1800s. It was apparently built several times in the distant past. At the summit of the mound are the burial remains of some sort of temple, further adding to the mystery of the site. Monk's Mound measured 100 feet tall with an origin base of 1,000 feet. These even measurements in feet have raised the interest of alternative historians, as well as its numerous astronomical alignments that show great similarities to the alignments at Stonehenge and Teotihuacan, so the Mexican one, y'all, among numerous significant ancient sites. All right. So let's see. All right. Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit more because I want to get to one more part. Mystery Mound 72. In addition, during the excavation of Mound 72, a ridge-top burial mound south of Monk's Mound, archaeologists found the remains of a man in his 40s buried on a bed of more than 20,000 marine shell disc beads arranged in the shape of a falcon, with the bird's head appearing beneath and beside the man's head, its wings and tail beneath his arms and legs. Archaeologists also recovered more than 250 other skeletons from Mound 72. Scholars believe almost 62% of these were sacrificial victims based on signs of ritual execution and methods of burial. So last part I wanted to read was the circular wooden sun calendars called Woodhenge. Some archaeologists believe the last survivors of the mound builders were the Natchez Indians of the lower Mississippi Valley. These Indians were known for being devout worshippers of the sun, which may explain the usage of the mounds at Cohica and the so-called Woodhenge at the site. These 48 wooden posts make up a 410-foot diameter circle, and by lining up the central observation post with specific perimeter posts at sunrise, the exact date of all four equinoxes can be determined. Entire books have been written about the many geological and astral alignments associated with the Cohica complex. Although these studies are dismissed by conventional archaeologists as the wishful thinking of wild-eyed amateurs, what cannot be denied is the amazing similarities between the Woodhenge construction found at Cohica and the similarities constructed Woodhenge found next to Stonehenge in England. Although these were the finds revealed to the public after the official 1920 excavation, a previous unofficial dig at the site uncovered hundreds more skeletons, some giant in nature, which have all disappeared from historical records. All right, child. So with that said, we're going to stop right there. Other part on page 141, he just goes into saying how experts show racism by dismissing the mound. Racism and prejudice said that lazy Indians couldn't have made the mound, said archaeologist James Anderson. That meant excavation of the site about 10 miles east of St. Louis named Cohica after a group of Indians that lived in the area in the 17th century was slow in starting, in part because early experts refused to believe that Indians had built the majestic earthen pyramid that still stands today. Okay, all right, so that was the article that he's quoting out of the Chicago Tribune in 1892. All right, so we're going to stop there, and we're going to give last words. So, sis, Sandra, you have any last words for the family?
No, not really. Except for I may be gone for a moment. I'm going on vacation and stuff, maybe.
Oh, good for you. Okay.
I'm trying to finalize the plan. So, if you don't hear from me for a while, that's where I am.
Okay. Well, you have safe travels and definitely enjoy yourself. We will certainly miss you, but by all means, you have a great time.
Thank you.
Safe travels, definitely.
Thank you. It's not finalized yet, but if I'm not here, that's where I'll be going.
Okay. Yep. No worries. Brother Sean, you have any last words for the family?
Yeah. When are you going to matter? When are you going to be your focal point? When are you going to realize that it's all on you? So, what are you going to do?
All about you.
Not what you're going to read, not what you're going to think about, not what you're going to astro project to do. What you going to do? Time, everything is becoming immaterial. All those lines are blurred because they don't exist. They're going to continue to go out of focus. So, again, what are you going to do? I'm done.
Indeed. Well, I want to, of course, thank my co-hosts, Sis Sandra and Brother Sean, for joining me tonight and bringing this great material. I want to thank the family of listeners for being patient with us tonight. Thank you to Brother 832 for dropping such great knowledge. Thank you to Brother 646 for coming in, dropping great knowledge. And thank you to Brother Purple Pill in the chat room for dropping great knowledge. We will be back next week. We're going to go into some of the Arctic stuff, and we're going to pick back up with the Giant series. We're almost winding down with the Giant series, and I'm excited because I can't wait to the next series we get into. So always, thank you, family, so much for your support. And I'm sending you out love, peace, freedom, and truth. So we're going to rock out with some music with Donald Byrd. So peace and love, family. We will see you next week.